Did you know last time we did this, you were wearing the same outfit as 2 podcasts ago?
I had a feeling that was true. Like, I remember sitting in the chair and then being like, wait a minute.
Did you get like a moment of panic?
Not really. It's a cute sweatshirt, so I was okay with it.
It is cute. It's kind of like Lando Calrissian from Star Wars. Like that color blue.
I like the texture.
You've never seen Star Wars,
yeah,
have you?
I can't really relate to what that means.
What? How have you never seen Star Wars?
I don't know.
Just get out. I don't even want to start this today.
Okay, bye. So I guess we'll see you
But
next
we have to, because welcome back. This is a continuation of the Editor's Room podcast on in-depth reporting that we started last week. As always, I'm Jackson Estwanick, executive producer of MHSNews and The Messenger.
And I'm Kavya Jain, co-editor-in-chief of The Messenger.
And when we last left off, we were talking about the different ways that we tackle in-depth reporting. I was talking about how I view reporting as a problem-solving effort, and you were talking about how you really like grooming your sources, or not grooming, that's kind of a harsh word, but making sure that you know what each source has to offer before you actually sit down and do the formal interview. So in the week that's passed and kind of thinking about what I wanted to lead in here, I thought we'd talk about sources more, because I think that's obviously very important for in-depth reporting. As I was thinking of topics today, I first thought about fact-checking. Not because I don't think that we do enough of it. We rarely have a whole lot of major glaring inaccuracies, but I do think that we more often than not, overlook more minor things that need to be checked.
Yeah. I think that, like, a lot of times I'll just mishear a word, and, like, I know that has happened with me, like, twice that I can think of, and it's just, those are things that I could have fixed easily, and, like, looking back, like, going forward, I do double check those things, but I remember, like, for my veganism story, I accidentally used the word pasteurized instead of pasture raised. And, like, obviously that sounds similar when a source is talking fast, but those are so different.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that was really, like, a learning moment for me. And then when I was writing that story about religion and sports, I misheard a religious term.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not, like, I'm not Catholic, so I wasn't even, like, aware of what that was, but, like, that was one of those things where if I just did a Google search, I'm sure I could have fixed that. And so that was
I feel like I've more recently been adopting kind of whimsically daft inquisitive persona. That was a lot of fun words. When I'm interviewing people, I feel like when I'm trying to get those little details, like who, what, where, when, why, that obviously you need to fill in the meats and pieces of a story. I feel like I've been interviewing people and I'd be like, okay, so I know I already know your name, but could you please tell me your name and spell it? And then just when I get a little detail, I repeat it back to them. And I'm like, and it really helps that I've been, like, writing more. Like, I think something that's helped me improve more recently is that I've been actually taking a reporter's notepad when I'm doing a non-video story. I can't really take it when I'm doing video because you always have to make eye contact or else the source will, like, look all over the place and they get confused. But when I'm doing anything that doesn't involve, like, a source being on camera, I have been taking a notepad, and as I slowly write it out, because I don't know if I'm a slow writer or if I have big handwriting or what, but it takes me a while, I'll say, okay, so you just told me that blah, 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 and I would say a good 45% of the time I get it wrong, whatever they said to me, by just a tiny bit. Whether it's a number or, like, they're like, oh, you should talk to this person, their name is blah, 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 and I'm like, oh, okay, so you told me to talk to this person, and they're like, no, you spelled their name wrong, or you're saying it wrong, or whatever. I
think part of that, it's not even that that it's your, like, you made a mistake as the reporter. It's that the first time they said it, they weren't clear enough. And then the second time when you ask them, then they think about it more and they give you a better answer.
Yeah, I do feel like, and maybe that, I mean, I don't have a lot of reporting experience outside of a school system, obviously, but I feel like since we do deal with a lot of other kids who are nervous, and a lot of our reporters are nervous to go out there and write their first stories and talk to people, inaccuracies happen because people are nervous. But the fun thing about people is that they don't like being wrong, even if they are. So like if we get something wrong because they told us and it was wrong, we're still like ultimately at fault. And that's why I focus really carefully on fact checking. Like I think a lot of people get aggravated when Miss J or one of the editors is like, do we know this for certain? Hold on, we need to stop your whole story from like getting through that last final section of editing before it can proceed, because we need to figure out this fact. When I see that, I've just had to change my attitude to be like, we have to know, because if it's not right, then like why am I doing it in the first place?
I think you said something interesting about how nervousness sometimes leads to inaccuracies. And I think it's interesting because a lot of times it can be, you can feel as a reporter like you're being annoying if you're asking for so many details and about so many like specific things. But in reality, like asking for a source to give you an example or asking for a source for those details and those specific things just can alleviate nervousness, because it makes it seem like you're truly like inquisitive and you actually want to know about this, what the source's life and like the specific story in this instance, and like what were you wearing, like what do you do, like what's your morning routine like all of those tiny things that are the specifics can I think help alleviate nervousness, which is good.
Yeah, I think again it like my persona is what's been helping me, because another interesting thing is like oftentimes, at least for me, and I don't think I'm popular or all that or anything, but I do think that I'm well known for doing the journalism thing. And so oftentimes when I interview someone, they have some sort of prior conception of me, whatever that may be. And so I have to use that, my reporter persona, to get through, because like oftentimes I'll call up someone that like maybe I've gone to school with my whole life, and we've talked like maybe we were friends at this age and at this age, but we haven't talked in years. And so and now it's like, you know, there's always those weird interactions. And I think like just adopting something to separate yourself from that is a really good strategy to like get the most out of it.
That's so interesting, because I think that I work on doing the opposite, which I think like is just, it's just fun. I didn't know that you did that. Like
what do you mean by you do the opposite?
I think I try to not take on a reporter persona, and I try to be very casual and like, this is just like me talking to you as a friend type thing. And I like to I actually don't, this is kind of weird because I think that most people don't do this, but I ask for their name and grade level at the very end usually.
Oh,
like I start like, especially if it's
yeah, that's interesting,
because I don't want to set the tone as like formal. Like, what's your name? Can you spell your name for me? Like, I think that's intimidating. So I start by just being like, hey, so like I want to talk about this. You want to talk about it? And then I'll like, we'll have a good conversation. I'll ask lots of follow-ups, and I'm like, yeah. And like, I think I talk back a lot. Like I nod and say, like, react a lot to try to make it like natural and just very like student to student, not like reporter to student. That's what I try to do. And then at the end, I'll be like, right, so could I get your name and grade level? Like, I don't know. I think I try to do the opposite.
I don't think that I'm totally like, oh, I'm Mr. Reporter Man, you know? And I do try to keep it as casually respectful as possible. I think is like the best way to describe it. Like, I'm always trying to be super respectful, and like I think that comes with like wanting to sound interested. But not like too pokey sometimes. It is a balance. I do like that asking for the name and grade level and all that at the end, because oftentimes you know the person and you don't need that as an introduction.
Like, you know of them.
Right. And
yeah.
I feel like that's something they've taught forever, you know, like in reporting. It's
Yeah,
like ask for the person and their
first.
title and how to spell all that. But I think that's kind of outdated. Like with
Agreed, totally.
with the technology that we have now,
Yeah.
like, you know, I do I think everybody should be using a reporter notebook, and I know a lot of professional journalists that sometimes like they've come up in this new like multimedia age, and some use them and some don't, and I'm still very much on the camp that like you should use them.
Mm-hmm.
And but I feel like almost everybody uses voice memos now or some
Mm-hmm.
sort of recorder, you know, and it's so easy to pan through all that stuff. So it's not like you have to rewind a tape or anything, or
Mm-hmm.
or like, you know, if you interview somebody with a 60 person or a 60 letter name and you got to pause it and stop it, like all that's, it's really easy to get through.
I think that's what you said about you believe in like the reporter's notebook and stuff. I think that I don't rely on that. I don't do that, and I just use voice memo. And I think it's because if I did take a notebook with me, I would be too, like, I would be thinking too much about like what should I be writing down, and that might just be a me thing. And so I like to just do the phone because like I think it's easy to ignore the phone because the phone's just on the table and I'm just looking at you and we're just talking and I'm just gonna focus on keeping the conversation going. But I think with a notebook, it's like now the conversation is me, you, and a notebook. Right?
Yeah, and I think that's something that for the history of journalism, like that's always been kind of an awkward thing. But I need that organization,
Yeah.
or else if I just have the voice memo, then I'm gonna spend double the amount of time
that's totally
panning
true. It's a
panning
time
through.
saver. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally got shamed for that by Marta. Like she is so efficient, and I'm not sure if she even uses a notebook because I'm pretty sure her method has always been go do the interview, like get the voice memo, and then like rarely ever listen to it or listen to a couple seconds
Yeah,
of
which
it.
is so shocking to me. Like, I think she just, you have to have you have to have trust in your memory.
Yeah.
And also just, like, you have to trust yourself to do that. I don't think I trust myself
She does have
enough
like
to
a
do
very,
that.
very, very good memory though.
Yeah,
Like,
and-
and so I don't know if I would recommend that to everybody, but that's like the elite strat.
Right. But she doesn't, like, her quality of work is amazing. So it's not like it's taking away from anything, but like that's what Miss J, our advisor, will say too. She's like, you don't really need to listen to the whole interview. Like if you remember the facts, then you just write that out and then listen for quotes. But I don't know, I just can't do that. I'm too I'm too particular. I'm like, no, I need to listen to the whole thing again.
Yeah. I think one of the things that like really pushed me away from that is like Apple updated at some point, and you used to be able to like see the whole like waveform on the screen and like pan through it, and now you can't do that anymore, so you have to like drag the thing back and forth. It's not as fluid, and I was like, oh, I can't, I hate doing this. It's like a waste of my time. What was that thing before that you thought we might want to talk about?
Oh, writing, the process of
Yes,
writing. Yeah.
writing
Because I think
process.
we've talked a lot about like how do you get the interview? Who do you get the interview with? But like what about after the interview? I think that's what we need to talk about.
Yeah, well, where do you start? Because I feel like in the past 5 minutes we've unearthed like you do one thing one
Yeah.
way and I do it the complete opposite way.
I'm kind of shocked though, like I didn't realize that our ways are so different.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got the interview, and then like we said, I like to listen to the whole thing and transcribe it. And I've gotten to the point where I don't transcribe everything anymore. Like
Yeah.
I think in the beginning I literally did like write out every single thing the
You
person said.
you can do some pretty in-depth transcriptions today. Like I think I saw you doing one today, and it was for an in-depth, I think, right? Do I
That
know
was
what I'm
actually
talking
still
about?
research, and that's
Yeah,
I think
that's
that's funny though
research.
that you thought it was a transcription because it was so long. It was
Yeah,
like
it
a
was
whole
really
page
long.
of just me
Yeah.
like conceptually outlining things and just putting in links and then finding more people. Like it's a process, but
Yeah.
anyway, so I have all the transcriptions, but now I just will transcribe the things that are well said and just paraphrase their thoughts, and then obviously type out quotes. But I still do have to listen to the whole thing just because that's the way I do it. And then This is the advice I give to a lot of people who are working on in-depth stories, is that once you've had all your transcriptions written out, highlight the parts of each source that you think are quote worthy, or that you think like, hey, they cover this topic really well, and just highlight those portions. I do a lot of color coordinating, and then piece together, just take out those highlighted portions from each source and piece it together. I would say that's like
That's your method.
Broad method.
Yeah. For writing, when I'm writing something, I've just kind of transitioned to a new way of writing, so I'm going to talk about like the way I used to do it and the way that I do it now. And it's because of that reporter notebook. So before I had the notebook, I was still doing voice memos, but I would get the voice memo and I'd come back and I would listen to it all the way through again, which was a big waste of my time. But what I would do is I'd get on that note page and I would paraphrase the stuff. And sometimes it would be, I couldn't like verbally say an example of the way I did this, but sometimes it would be very silly things, like very silly ways of like making a lot of information short and informal and grammatically incorrect and all that. And then I would get the best quotes just by listening all the way through, and then I would be done. And then what I would do is go back and kind of like cut and paste things on the page so that it would be in the right order. And then I would go back and I would take those funny things and like expand them and fill in all the necessary information. And sometimes I'd literally have like one line and it would be 2 words, and that might be like a number and whatever we're measuring or time or whatever, and cut and place all that stuff until I have a full story. Now I have the notebook. I kind of have all that little paraphrase stuff on the notebook, so I just type that up into my paragraphs as I go, and then I have timestamps when I have quotes.
Yeah.
And then I just go back to that timestamp and maybe like a little parentheses on what that quote was about, or like a really cool word. Like I know I talked about this last time, but it's the most recent story I've written. The swimmer story, she used the word euphoria, and I was like, when am I ever going to write a story where the girl says euphoria? So I wrote down the timestamp and then euphoria.
I think that's something that Marta always stresses, is like, just look at the time, because like right when if you're in the middle of the interview, if you're like, this is a good quote, I am not in the habit of doing this, but I know I need to be, and she always tells me I should be. Just look down at your phone real quick and just look at the time. Yeah. It's such a time saver.
Because the reason why I changed styles is because I felt I lost the patience to be able to listen to the whole thing. Like, I don't listen to the whole things anymore. And part of me feels like, oh, what if I'm missing something? But I know that I have the confidence in myself that, like, it's in this notebook. And I was more present than I'll ever be writing this, no matter how, like, it doesn't matter if it's been 5 minutes and I've sat down to write it now. Like, I know I was more present in that interview and I wrote it down. Yeah. Now for, let's pick other methods that I do stories. When I do video, that's my strength, and I just know where quotes are. I think the most popular method that my videographers do their stories now is they'll bring up the interview clip, and you can have like separate windows in Premiere, and so that's how we edit our videos. They'll like listen to it all the way through, like you're listening to a transcription, and they'll find a quote that they like, and they'll pull that out, and then they'll have these little blocks, and a lot of them like to color code their interviews too. They'll have these little blocks of sources, and then they'll go through all those good quotes and see what fits. But I always know when I'm doing a story, I have that timestamp mentality. But the thing is that it's visual, so that when I bring it up, I can just scroll through it. I don't even have to listen to it. I just remember what their face looked like, or what the scene looked like, or whatever. Not something I can really teach to people other than to keep working hard at it. And I'm not sure if that's an everybody thing, but that's what helps me work super efficiently. I would say the hardest thing that you can do, that people don't take as they don't get as into as I think I do, is photo galleries. Photo galleries are really tough because like you're taking pictures, but I'm always trying to like, I want my photo galleries to feel like this was a story and I just so happened to tack on 10 or 11 pictures that totally worked with what was going on. So like when I do photo galleries, I'm taking pictures, but like half of the time I'm running voice memos in my pocket. So if it's a speaker and I'm taking pictures of them and they have a good quote, I'll go back and listen to it. But I'm so in the zone taking pictures that it's like I have no idea where that is. So like whenever I do those signs for change, like protest photos, those take me the longest because I have to scroll through and listen to it all.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. I think when I do photo galleries, I it's just one of those things where like take a bunch of pictures. Oh, I like this one. I'm gonna go find whoever's in this. Like for the turnabout dance or winter dance.
Right.
I just like.
But did you get all
taking
those
good
quotes
pictures.
there?
Yeah.
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 And
because I just right after I got the picture, I was, even if I wasn't sure if I would use the photo, I was like, I don't want to come find you later. That's so weird. And you obviously just saw me take a picture of you. So then I'm like, hey, I just got like a really great picture of you. Would it be okay if we talked for a bit? And
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's so tough because people take on photo galleries and then they're like, I think photo galleries are really good for capturing like events or processes, and people are like, oh wait, I have to stay for the whole event and this person is playing a sport or this person is a speaker or they're doing something right now and I have to wait until it's an opportune time for them. Like I don't want to do that, like, and that's tough for me. Sometimes I'll come and the realization will hit me and I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna be here a while before I get this person. Again, especially with those protest ones, like when there's a big crowd of people and they're on a stage and I'm 20-30 feet away and I know they're gonna exit the stage and there's a crowd of people and then I have to hunt my way through, but then there's gonna be another person, it's like I really love the physical aspect of reporting, like logistically. And I think that's another reason why I really like doing like audiovisual stuff, is because when you're just writing something, like a lot of the times you're just sitting there and that's fine. But I like the physicality of it, and that is what makes it tougher, but like you have to move.
I think this is another one of those moments where I'm the opposite. Like the physicality of it stresses me out. Like
Yeah.
This is kind of embarrassing, but you don't know how many times I have to go through in my head, like, okay, I'm gonna get to the dance, then I'm gonna check in, and I'm gonna take some pictures of the check-in. Like, I literally think about that stuff and I really admire you for just being able to, like, enjoy all of that, but
Yeah.
I get, like, stressed about it. I'm like for the Joe story, like, I was like, okay, so I'm gonna, like, get there a couple minutes early, I'm gonna park, and then I'm gonna, like, go, like, I literally think about it to that extreme.
The water boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, and then I'm gonna, like, go just stand by the fuel, and, like, I don't know, okay, I have to, like,
Yeah, and
the physicality of it is, like, not the part I enjoy, like, the conversations, and then the pre-reporting part, the excitement, and then the aftermath where, like, I enjoy the conceptual parts of it where I'm like putting together this like product.
And I feel like the reason why I enjoy it is because I always operate on that like thinking a million things at once, and I feel like you'd like to be focused. And that's not to say that I'm not focused, but it's like a different type of concentration. I like to juggle and you don't, I think, is a good way to put it. But that is something that I'm always constantly thinking of, but it keeps me occupied. When I'm driving to location, I'm thinking about it. When I'm walking in the building, I'm thinking about it. Like, and I guess that's a lot of mental energy. But I do enjoy it because it feels like I'm throwing myself into something.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't know, maybe that's why like when I'm reporting I don't accept like mishaps. Like I don't have a lot of accidents because sometimes things do go wrong and then I fix it because I'm still I don't have time to stop, and I just continue to fix it on the fly. Yeah.
So I think that when we were talking about the way that we write our stories, at least for me, I was thinking along the lines of like, I got all my sources at the same time, so now I just have a bunch of transcriptions. But that's not the way that it works. You know, a lot of time you'll have 2 sources and you'll have them for a week and you'll be waiting on your 3rd source. Or you'll have 3 sources and you think your story's done and then you get a new source. And I think then it gets a little bit more challenging to fit that source into the narrative, especially when it is an in-depth where like you organize things topically. And in situations like that, like I always told people, like it's not like you can't just wait on your transcription now and do the highlighting method. Like at this point, just write your sources out in story format, and then once you get that other source, write them in story format, and then you're just gonna have to delete. And I know, and we talked about this in the other section. Deleting is hard, but at that point, that's like the best way to do it. Is like do the extra work so that in the end it's easy.
Yeah. Well, we're totally gonna run out of time to talk about this for this podcast because I have so much to say about that because it is such a big issue when you're doing video. People, like I would say that maybe the biggest struggle that we have in MHS News now is when you're waiting on a source. What do? You can edit your interview, like you might be able to get B-roll, but when you don't have anything, you don't have anything. And it's like, what can I possibly do? You're just sitting around. And so, yeah, I guess we're gonna have to do a part 3. It's kind of exciting that we have like a little series going on now.
But also, I'm ready to talk about something else.
Okay, well we have some more ideas coming along the way, but thank you so much for listening. We're certainly gonna revisit this topic and others. You have anything else to say?
No.
I don't know if we've done like an outro.
Yeah. Should we create one?
I don't know. I don't know how many listeners get this far.
Yeah. Connor, if you're out there.
All right. Peace. Bye.